Aman. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste, habari gani, Ohio, Masaya Anakitawaya. I see you. Jambo mimini Kofi, Nina Faraku Katana Nwewe. Bakwartav, Shabbat Shalom, Kwame Yashrel, Tedah, Barak Alad Sham Yahava, Shalom, Alad Sham Yahava, A'anai Kofi, Helet, Servants of Christ, Mashalom Hey. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice to the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And we thank you guys for being on multiple platforms, which we're still trying to set up here. I think we got enough signal for y'all right now. So we praise y'all for that. Just trying to make sure that we have everything set up so people can come on different platforms to be able to say hello. And hello to everybody. Welcome. We give all honor and praise once again to the Most High. Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise and honor to Him once again for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We're thankful and grateful to you all so very much. And we just as a reminder, we will end this a little earlier than what we normally do, so we can be ready for the podcast. Prayerfully, we'll have Minister Morel in place today, or whoever might be there as a replacement. And then prayerfully at 11 a.m. Eastern New York time, we'll have everybody at SOC. So if you didn't receive the link, TikTok, I forgot TikTok has a feature because they don't want people bothering people to not get it. But it made it difficult for me to get the link to everybody this week, because once I started sending out the link via DM, it started saying stuff like, hey, you're sending too much information too fast, and it kind of stopped us and, slowed down the process. So if you haven't received the link, but you've been part of any of our regional meetings that we've had on Saturdays, when we met up with people just in the West Coast or in Florida or Georgia and the Carolinas, or, New York in that area, or the Midwest, et cetera, et cetera. If you have been on any of those meetings, one that was just for Texas, et cetera, all these things we did for different parts of the country, or you received a Zoom link, just go ahead and use that same one, please. If for some reason you can't find it, or you're not sure that's the one, feel free to reach out and contact us. We would love for everybody all around the world who listens in to be in on this particular Zoom meeting at 11 a.m. Eastern New York. That's New York time. So if you're wherever you are, just look up whatever time it is in New York City and go by that. Once it's 11 o'clock a.m. in New York City, if you're confused about that, just look for whatever time it is in New York. That's the time that we'll be using to be governed by. All right. So we just want to make sure that we put that out to everybody, and we appreciate you so very much. But thank you for being on. We give all honor and praise once again to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give all honor and praise to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And so let's go ahead and get into today's message. And really, today's going to be Q&A. During all these series that we do, we try to make sure that we do some Q&A from time to time, so people can kind of catch up a little bit. People can ask questions. Maybe there's something you heard us talk about and I couldn't really focus on it at the time. Maybe it's series related, as far as removing the leaven from our home. Now, remember, the series is based off of removing leaven. So there's a 40-day period where we, from really this year started February 23rd, 40-day period where we make sure we're removing the leaven from our home. And leaven in this context represents sin. Sin contextually and factually just means anything that causes you to miss the mark. So if you're missing the mark in anything in your life, maybe you're missing the mark as far as you're feeling depression. Maybe you're missing the mark as far as your marriage isn't working correctly. Maybe you're missing the mark as far as, hey, I've been investing in this and that. Maybe you're missing the mark as far as sovereignty, or public citizen versus private citizen, public citizen versus private sovereign, right? Whatever it is, maybe you're missing the mark on just comprehension of stuff. Maybe you have biblical questions. Maybe you have questions about anything. The best thing to do is ask, and then my answer will either be, I know or I don't know, right? Or maybe we can talk something through on here. So we want to leave this open for today, but let's go ahead and get started. And thank you for all the love too. Appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, by the way, feel free, if you like what you hear, Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification tab. If you're on Facebook, feel free to like this and share this with people. If you're on TikTok, thank you for your gifts, and feel free to like, share, and even if you're not part of what we do, feel free to become part of this community. We're not just people that do this virtually, by the way. We actually know each other. We talk to each other. We do meetups, whether I'm there or not, right? It's big. It's the kingdom mindset, supporting each other, supporting like-minded people. And so we're grateful and thankful to each and every one of you who are participating on this day. But let's go ahead and say hello before we get into this. I'll try to catch as many comments and questions that are coming up today. So I will do my best. We're only going to go probably till about 9:30, 9:45 at like the very latest, so we can be on point to make sure we start the podcast on time and have our Shabbat Shalom service there, which you guys are more than welcome to. If you're on TikTok, by the way, feel free to stick around to the end. We do a little shout out, which is a nice little something that we do, so that if you like what you hear and you want to be part of some of the stuff we're doing, or maybe you want to take classes or just whatever it is, help out the community, support businesses, feel free to go ahead and just make sure that you stick around to the end so we can get some information out to you and you can see some stuff pop up on your screen. Alrighty, but thank you to everybody once again on TikTok, on YouTube, or on Facebook, those who are joining on the podcast. We appreciate you so much. Let's say hello and let's get into it. How you doing, Sister Talitha? Amen. We got a few people up there every once in a while, so I hope things are going well, but it's glad to have you on here. How you doing, Reginald? How you doing, Sister Latoya? Sister Rhonda, Sister Monica, Big Roy, Sister Austral, Devin Black September, how you doing? Big Brother Thomas, Sister Rhea, Sage, Sister Lori, Brother Alton. I'm scrolling through, sorry. Old Weed Man, okay, how you doing? Welcome. Black Steel, Brother Yeshaya. I still don't remember if I should be saying ye or yeah, depending on what dialect you're using. But thanks for being on. How you doing, Sister Joy? Keith, Samuel, Diced Apple, She Travels. Nytheon the game. I don't know if I said that correctly. Ethion game. I'm not sure, but thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Minister Tamara, Lenora, Minister Shantae, Sister Beverly, Sister Barbara. Hey, how y'all doing? Sister Barbara doing all those great drawing or colorings and stuff like that. I'm gonna need to get my hands on one and we're gonna have to figure something out. NY Lad or Nilad, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. How you doing, Sister Elion? Praying for you and the family. Sorry, this thing is moving all over the place. If I miss your name, charge it to my head and not to my heart. I appreciate everybody for coming on today. I really do. His Will, Money Green, Eric Williams, everybody. Celestial, Sister Laura in Florida, I see you. Shake Black One, all right, how you doing? Jennifer Peak. Yeah, we have some people in Pennsylvania. We're working on putting some stuff together for y'all now. Aman. How you doing, Dion? Sister Shantae. Shabbat Shalom. Amen. User 8455513, etc. April is the new year. Well, April's the new year, sure. Yep. Matter of fact, for us, March 23rd is actually our new year. That's nice time. But yeah, we know that we shouldn't just go by the Gregorian calendar, especially because they just made it up to try and catch up to what people around the world were already doing. How you doing, Mikhail Sullivan? Thanks for being part of the community. And Annie B. Sweets, thanks for being part of the community. If I miss your name, once again, there's a lot of y'all popping up, so forgive me. Got to get into the topic, but thank y'all for being on. We appreciate you all over the place. Chilvan, thanks for being part of the community. Nada Burton, Paul Kazalazzi, everybody, we appreciate you. All right. So, is it Inequality? I'm not sure if I said that right. How you doing? Nay, Jay and Tink, everybody. All righty. So today, once again, we're going to start with some Q&A. So those who've been part of the series, removing leaven from the home, removing anything that's causing you to miss the mark in your life. Let's do some Q&A. So I don't want to just get started and just talk. I've already been talking, giving announcements and all this other stuff. But are there any questions, comments, or concerns that you guys want to bring up today? Any Q&A, any question, comments, or concerns, anything that you guys might have, we can start there. I mean, if not, I can just go in and start talking, but anything you guys want to discuss on today? Anything that you guys have been talking about? Okay, Paul, do what you do. Anybody have an actual question? We're talking about removing the leaven from our home. We want to take a pause and a break. This is your chance now. before I start going and going and going, and people say we keep on talking and talking, it's hard to keep up sometimes. This is your chance. Is there a version of the Tanakh or the Torah that I do this? Am I a pastor? Yes. By, I guess you would use that definition, or you would use that to define me. Yes. That, technically, I'd be a kohelet or a rabbi or marach, etc., which are things that I had to be qualified for, culturally speaking. But yes, you could say that I'm a pastor. Somebody said, what version of the Torah? What version of the Torah? So basically, when you're saying that version of the Torah, version of the Bible, version of the scrolls, um, I utilize a lot of different things. I'll mainly, because it's kind of the standard for people and what they learn from what they read and what they've grown up with, or even if they haven't grown up with, but just a standard. I'll usually use like a 1611 King James version, the actual like original version, the one that doesn't have the yet because it doesn't exist and all that. So I'll actually use that, but simple. Like make sure that you comprehend culture. Like make sure that you comprehend, right? So, so if you comprehend what culture is, then culturally speaking, what's going to happen is that, see, because everybody always talks about everything. We talk about context, but we don't give context without facts. We try to not give facts without context. So culturally speaking, um, if you're talking about the Bible, or what we now know as the Bible, which came from Biblios, which was an island where they started making books. Holy Bible literally just means one set of books, or one set of books. Bible just means set of books. So the word itself doesn't mean much if you don't have the culture attached to it. So I can give you whatever version. If you want the Kefir or the Savad, any scroll, Apocrypha, KJV, KJVA, NIV, NAKJV, all the stuff, ESV, New World Translation, New World Translation, Amplified. I can't even keep up with them all, right? There are some that are worse than others, for sure. Like in the NIV, they'll normally take out a lot of verses because it actually comes from something called the Alexandrian Bible. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people read versions of the Bible they don't know about, like it's called the Slave Bible, where they actually took out things to make sure that people wouldn't fight for their rights during chattel slavery. Thomas Jefferson, if you ever go to his manor in Virginia, Monticello, right, or his plantation, his house on the plantation, he basically had slave Bibles and then would still rip pages out of the Bible because he didn't want anything around that was going to remind him about slavery, things like that. So, and thank you, Minister Shante, I appreciate you. Right. So this is stuff that, like, it's when we're talking about this, you have to realize that we're operating a lot of times in things that are not culturally sound. Like in your Bible, it might say stuff that is like firmament, for example. There's no such thing in the Bible written as firmament. I'm not saying there's no such thing as halakwaya or a hard substance, right? I'm talking that people can't push through. Scientists have even admitted that, right? They say that they've tried to hit it with a nuclear bomb, they can't get through it. So we know there's something, once you get to a certain part outside of what you would call the atmosphere and all that, we know there's something that's there. However, that word firmament does not even mean what people think it means. People think firmament means the same as in the Hebrew harakaya, but firmament is a Greek god. If you know how it is when the Greeks put all these gods together, or these these deities that they worship, when they put them all together, once they started becoming a world power, um, they actually just changed everything up and tried to get it to go off of a lot of people who kept the olive bait and stories attached to it, which are what we would call biblical today. So they said, here's how it works. Instead of in the beginning, it was gas, liquid, solid, right? Without form and void, gas, all of a sudden hover upon the face of the waters, and the waters are separated, liquid. Then it's a hard substance up top and a hard substance the next day on the bottom to come out of the lower seas. Uh, right? They said and said, well, we'll say that in the beginning was nothing, then there was Gaia. Gaia becomes the Big Bang, right? We think of the Big Bang today. And then out of Gaia came two people. There was Neptune. Neptune was the lower seas. Neptune is, Zeus' brother, if you know that, right? Zeus' brother, who's over the water and all of the. So you had Neptune, who's on the bottom, and then they said there was, they said there was firmament at the top. Firmament is actually, so Gaia came from nothing. She had two sons, Neptune. I'm sorry, Firmament, and she had Neptune, right? And then she had sex with her own son, right? Firmament, and out of that comes what you call titans, and eventually will lead to what you now call gods and things like that. So culturally speaking, there's a lot of stuff that's thrown in there. So I always tell people you have to know what the culture is. You can't have proper interpretation if you don't know how these people lived, what they believe, what's been added on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You said Torah is the first 5 books. No, it's not. It depends on on what you believe, right? Because Serach or Torah, all it's saying is basically like this is a guide or this is the law. So if you believe that the law is anything that a king decrees, and whatever a king decrees, whatever a king has spoken, whatever a king says we should live by is Torah. Now, Torah for those of us those who are Israel living at the time, well, Torah would only be what Moses wrote until it became what Joshua also wrote, until it became what's said by the judges, right? Going through the times of Ruth, going to now First Kings or First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, First Kings, Second Kings, first I went out of order, sorry, First Samuel, Second Samuel as well, right? Like, and so on and so forth, right? Ezra, Nehemiah, all this stuff going now through the Psalms, which you can say are poems, but are also decreeing statutes, right? Which also has the Aleph Beit in it, Psalm 119, 22 characters that you need to know. That's why it's 176 verses, right? And so on and so forth. So if your belief system is that I'm only going to stop at what Moses wrote, then that's what the Torah is to you. If you think that the Pentateuch or the Pentateuch is it, then that's all you got, right? But if you believe that everything that a king decrees must be established in the kingdom, then that's what you have to go by. So as far as versions of the Bible, I would say it, as much as people are going to not like me for saying this, because it obviously matters, it doesn't matter as much as you making sure that you comprehend how they lived and what they meant, right? Do you even know what the words mean? Do you know that it's not Genesis is not the name of the first book of the Bible? Genesis was what it was changed to. And look, it focuses on genealogy and family blood and stuff, cool, but that's not what the focus was supposed to be. The first word of the Bible is actually what the first scroll or the first book of the Bible is supposed to be named. It is called Barashat. It is 6 characters long. It means Bet, the son who comes out the right family, Aleph, who's one with the Father, Resh, who is our head, Sheen has become destroyed, Yah, being led by the Holy Spirit, Tav, to the place that it is finished, marked, and it even looks like a lowercase t, showing you that eventually we're being led to the cross. Those are the first 6 letters. So it's prophetic. And it is, right? Like it's telling you, even before Adam sins, the Most High already knew that sin would enter in. And so we would need a second Adam, which he's going to send a version of his own self to be able to be implanted to make sure that he can follow the laws that we mess up on, so that when we try to follow the law, since Adam will sin and will have the generational curse coming down, whenever sin enters into us, the blood of Yahshua covers us and washes us, so that we might be able to make sure that we are pure like snow, not white as in a color, because remember, white is not a color. White means to be reflective, to be clear, to be see-through, to make sure that it actually reflects color, right? And to make sure that, and it also means bright. It wasn't until colonialism that people started describing white as a color. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there. I could keep going and going and going and going and going. And we have a lot of recordings on YouTube. If you ever want to go there and look it up, you can look up our link tree to be able to get more information on what we actually think, how we believe, how we talk, how we move, why we move the way we do, etc. But yeah, it's a lot more to it. So you could read the Bible and not know that you're reading something that says Yahweh, or somebody would argue Yahuwah, or somebody would argue Jehovah, or somebody would argue Yahweh, right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Some of y'all would argue Hayah or Hayah because you're going off of Exodus 3:14, not Exodus 3:15, et cetera. But the reason why that capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D is important is because every time you see all caps Lord, it's talking about the name of the Most High. But if you don't know that, you'll read your Bible and still never be able to figure out, oh, it's talking about the name of the Most High. Now, somebody was asking about leaven. We're talking about leaven. What is the origin of leaven? I don't know if you're talking about what is the origin of leaven itself, as far as how it came into being. I can't tell you that, like as far as how it was created, when it was created, all this stuff. But as far as leaven, what it means, leaven is talking about making sure that there's no sin in this context during a 40-day period. It existed before Lent. So if you're talking about Lent is something that actually comes out of Lupercalia. Lupercalia was when people actually were having these sex parties all over what you now call Europe and other places, even going into what used to be Eastern Rome, right? So they had these parties that they would have. And when they had these parties, these sex parties, they were acting like wolves. because they thought that wolves only bred around a certain time, and there was the alpha wolf, and the alpha wolf could have his fill, so people were just having sex all over the place. The Pope, who even engaged in some of the activity, was like, "Yo, we could looking kind of bad if this is what I used to be the vicar or the king of kings over all these other kings and kingdoms. So we need to get it together." So he allowed stuff that you now call stuff like Fat Tuesday or Carnival that actually came from there. Did it get mixed in with some cultural things that were native on this side of the earth? Sure, but he says let's get that all together and let's make sure that we have one day where everybody wilds out. But then after that, for 40 days, you got to give up sex. And now traditionally, it's become something where everybody wilds out. You put ashes on your head, right? Ashes, mourning, ashes, putting on ashes and sackcloth and all that stuff, sackcloth and ashes. And then you do what for the next um, period of time, then at 40 days. So you guys celebrate not Passover, but you celebrate Ishtar, Easter, which is based off of a woman, right, who said that that's the mother of Nimrod, who had sex with her own son as well. Could you see the Greek, right, the Greco-Roman influence in there? Right? So you got to be careful about a lot of Greco-Roman influence we might not know about. But Ishtar is a woman who says that I came from the moon in an egg, which is where you get the Easter egg. And that's why you see the bunny. The bunny represents her fertility because she was always having sex. So she was always having babies. And some people worship her son on Easter, right? Ishtar, her son Tammuz, who actually died of a boring accident and didn't die for anybody's sins. But that's what you're right. There's a lot of mixing and matching. So the leaven for us is 40-day period though, where 40 days before Passover. So even before the new year, Nisan for us, March 23rd, right? Because springtime really doesn't happen in January, right? Springtime is going to happen, you know, at the actual beginning of the year. Many countries and cultures still do that to this day, and so that we go by what is not only kingdom law, but also universal law, which is natural law. So we go by a different calendar. But because we're in the land of our captivity, we know a lot of people still have to go off of the Julian or Gregorian calendar. How you doing, brother TJ? You said some unique here. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Thanks for being part of the community, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up. Those were some pretty deep questions. But keep them coming. I'm trying my best to see if I can catch them. And thank you, everybody on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. We appreciate you so very much. How you doing, Sister Slanda? You said Lent is to prepare for the false Mary, the Easter of the devil's 7 holidays. Well, once again, well, I mean, if that's what your argument is, that's fine. We're kind of in the same ballpark. I'm not going to argue with you, Jason. Hello, how you doing? How you doing, Sister Helen? Yeah, but today is about what y'all want to ask. We got a little bit of time. Q&A. We got about an hour or so left. And we're talking about removing the leaven from our home in this season. Removing the leaven. How you doing, Sister Nadine? Removing the leaven. How you doing, Sister Saul? Removing leaven. Leaven in this context represents sin. Sin is anything that causes us to miss the mark. How you doing, Sister Sharice? How you doing, Mama JCS? Thanks for being part of the community. What do I know of the Testament of Solomon? I'm still studying it. I've read it. I've been reading it more lately, actually, but I can't say like I've made all the connection points yet. A lot of interesting stuff in there though, but I can't necessarily say I'm ready to talk about it. I'm still trying to catch up on the stuff that you sent me that I asked you for the other day. So that's actually kind of on the forefront of my mind. That's been kind of my study. Well, that and also somebody suggested that we do something on the Woman King as far as a watch party. So I've been watching that, and it's totally different than what the actual history of those kingdoms that are in there. I won't say totally different, but it's very different. And a lot of people don't know, like even the women that are in there, they're not real characters, like, or not based off. They're based off of some real names of women we know were in that army, right, or in that battalion, right. And they could at one point at their height they were like 6,000 strong. Those women, so it was even more than what you see in the movie. They would be like 6,000 strong when they went. Right, but there's a lot of different things, inconsistencies. So I'm trying to see how close it is to truth, because there's some things in there if we're not careful that people have kind of like ran with. You said how you attack feeling mediocre in multiple areas of your life. So how do you feel? How do you feel? So that's a great question. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Bakotab, thanks for being on. How do you attack multiple areas of your life? Somebody was asking. Yeah, I do. I don't have my fringes on. I have my tassels. There you go. Site to what you'll call zitzits. TZI. What's the T? Y'all, how do y'all spell it? Y'all spell it TSZIT or TZSIT, something like that. Anyways, but let's see. What were we talking about? What was the question I just saw? I'm sorry. Let me scroll back. Oh, how do you attack feeling mediocre in multiple areas of your life? So that's a big question. I'll try to do the best I can with it in just a little bit of time. Um, so feeling mediocre. So there's something that we talk about called culture to habits. We actually have it on our TikTok channel a couple of times, and where we discuss it in different ways. Actually, a few times, but actually called culture to habits a couple of times. So culture to habits goes like this. Everything always starts with culture. We're always going to talk culture on here because everything you do is out of culture. How you speak is out of culture. How you act is out of culture. How you look is out of culture. The culture, you were not raised in a vacuum, right? So culture informs your beliefs. What one believes, even about themselves, is based off of the culture that they're in or the environment. Let's say it like that too, right? So if my environment is one that lends itself to me looking a certain way, being bad, if my environment is something that tells me that what I'm not doing is right. Matter of fact, if my environment is part of something that's not right, like maybe I'm just part of an environment where I know I'm doing things I'm not supposed to do, or I'm part of some people that are doing things and I know they shouldn't be doing them, but I'm going to hang around. Culture informs my beliefs. What I believe is based upon what I've seen, right? And no, we don't pray to the east, um, because Yahshua himself said that there's coming a time where you don't have to worry about which mountain to face, but Elohim is a spirit, and they that worship him should worship him in spirit and in truth. So that's an easy one as far as our cultural, belief system, right? But yeah, so what we have here, how you doing, Sister LaCrystal? Um, and Sister Shante again, I saw you switch over. So what we have here is somebody's in a culture that informs your beliefs. You believe that certain things are okay to be around, and what happens is your belief leads next to your emotions. And how you doing, babe? My wife is on the Honorable Maya. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. So culture becomes something that informs your beliefs. Now you get an emotional attachment. Now, people look at emotion different than what it actually is. Emotion, there's actually, if somebody says, what is emotion? Emotion, part of the word tells you what emotion is. The word emotion has the word motion in it, movement. How you move is ultimately emotion. If you get emotional, if somebody has an emotional response because of what they believe, all that's happening is your brain pattern, right? Endorphins, synapses firing, right? Hypothalamus, right? The pineal gland, right? You have something else that's vibrating because of what's going on. It's all emotion. You could be as sad as you want to be, but if I tell you to go out and put your feet in the grass and ground, and I tell you to go out in the sun and put your hands up, you can try to be as mean in the face as you want. But after about 2 minutes, your emotions, because your brain knows something's up. If my hands go like this, even people who are blind, never seen anybody do it, born blind, will still go like this. Why? Because your body has an emotional response. There's certain emotions. I can tell if you're confident. I can tell if you're not necessarily so confident. I can tell if you're sad, right? I can see those things in your motion. So your body's motions have a lot of things to do. So the culture, the environment has informed your belief system. Because you believe something is the way it is, you've now gotten to a place where you're having an emotion. That's now physically manifesting something called feelings, right? You feel mediocre, you said, and everything, right? I feel a certain way. I'm feeling a certain way, right? Because based off of my emotions, and my emotions, now I'm getting in touch with how I feel, right? You feel with your heart. My heart's not in that. You feel with your skin, right? I'm not feeling that. You feel with your feet. I don't want to walk that path. You feel with your brain, right? Which is even different than your mind, but with your brain. I think this. I think that. You feel with your mesentery. I got a gut feeling about it, right? You see what I'm saying? Like we feel well, in a lot of different ways, right? Sometimes, we got mostly adults that listen, right? For the children, maybe this isn't the greatest thing to say in front of them, but I'm not gonna curse or anything. But you can feel even with your behind, right? I feel like I've been acting like a AS right? So so your emotions start to have you feel. Once you feel a certain way long enough, you start to get in the mood. Now I'm in the mood of this. Now I'm in the mood of that. Now I'm in the mood of this. I'm in the mood of that. I'm in a bad mood. I'm in a great mood. I'm in a depressive mood. I'm in a state of being, right? I'm in a state of being. I'm in a certain mood. And now because you're in that mood, that ultimately informs your effort or energy. How much effort or energy am I going to put into something? Or how will I put something into it? Well, it's based off, right? And that becomes your habits. Your habits will become culture again. But will it become great culture that should have been established at the beginning? Or will it become a culture that's modified, that's not real, that's feeding people something that causes them to be sick, or feeding your personal life, feeding your family something that's causing it to be sick? So, so when you're dealing with those things, you first have to set a culture, right? Set a culture. What is your wineskin, some would say, right? In biblically speaking, what is your environment going to be? What is your mission? Even in marriages, a lot of people talk about marriages and talk about how bad they are, and you don't realize a lot of marriages fail not because you don't have love. Marriages fail a lot of times because you don't have a mission. What is your mission? Women are not looking for a man. It's not called submansion. It's called submission. If a man is submitted to a mission already, then that's a man that's going to provide excellence. If a man has no mission, then he's gonna mess up. And if you're attached to that man and you're trying to multiply that and have your own vision and dreams be encapsulated inside a nothing that's there, right? You want protection. Woman's number one and number two needs, 99.9% of the time, number one and number two needs are going to be security and going to be affection. If I can't feel secure and what's for me, and I can't feel affection, and I can't feel secure, and security and affection is going towards my children, then I'm going to feel bad. Well, if you have a man with no mission, and how you doing, Minister Nines? I'm sorry. I see you over there. How you doing, Dwayne? So if I have no mission, then I'm gonna be in trouble, right? So before every husband, right? You're supposed to be pre-qualified in our culture. You're supposed to be pre-qualified for marriage. Marriage is sex, sex is marriage. You should already be a husband according to standards. You should already be a wife. You should be already aware of what that means. But a lot of people don't even get married with that. You get married thinking you will become a husband and become a wife and learn how to be it. And a lot of times we've never had an example set before us of what that is. So once again, if you feel mediocre, it's probably because there's a culture of mediocrity, right? And to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result is problematic, right? To even have faith that you don't, that some, because what happens is why you don't like being mediocre is because you have faith in yourself, in your true self. Maybe you've never met that person, but you have faith in your true self that there's got to be more than this, right? But faith without works, faith without an environment is still going to die every time. So you got to ask yourself those things. You got to be in position for those things. Excellent question. Thank you guys for the questions. I'm trying to catch them all. If I forget one, if I pass one, forgive me. There's a lot coming in. I haven't even gotten to a lot of even reading a lot of these comments. Said, how can you change ignorant people? You can't change anybody. That one's simple. That one's simple. Like you can't. I'm not here to change anybody. I'm here to give people tools and give people a new perspective so that they might make changes. But I can't change anybody. Don't try it. It's gonna mess you up. I'm telling you. You're gonna spend a lot of nights crying. I thought he would change. I thought she would change. No, that's my boy, man. I gotta stick with him. He gonna change, man. He'll change when he said, look, they give him the tools, tell him how to use them, and then move out the way. I'm not saying leave him alone. I'm not saying you can't love him. Love is an action, though. And don't be a doormat. Some of y'all are doormats. Some of y'all say you don't want to be doormats in life. But you become a doormat because you'll let people that don't want to change be around you who's trying to change. And they will step on you every time. Emotion, external motion. Yeah, exactly. You could think about it like that. How you doing, Destiny? How you doing, African Mage? Hello, how you doing? Peace. Nurse Betty, Grand Rising to you. So yeah, so it's important that we realize it, but once again, it comes from culture. And if you have a culture that says I'm supposed to do whatever I want, then you're gonna get whatever, right? Somebody says I want to do whatever I want. Be careful, because that means you want whatever, right? Like if you don't have a strict, this is what I'm doing. This is why law is important. Law doesn't give rights, right? You got to comprehend how law works. Law does not give rights. It never has. Law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights. If you go into a court case and you say, hey, this person is giving police brutality. Well, at least as far as today, as far as I know, at least in my studies, there's no law in the books for police brutality, because you can't say that police are brutal, because police protect policy of the people who are dealing with creating your polls as a poly, as a people, for the corporations that protect you. And they're brutal, or even British, even in their actions. So you can't have that. So you have to have law. You have to know what protects your rights. Now, if you say they're trying to circumvent my civil rights, now the judge has to listen. The judge might work with you if you say that, because they know what you mean, but they don't have to. You said, but would security and affection be the mission? No, once again, like I said, she has to get security and affection within that mission. So in your mission, the part of your mission to make sure that you provide security and affection. It's part of your mission to provide security and affection. Amen. A person without boundaries can be lawless and unprotected. Right? So in my mission, right? And what I do every day, what I do around the world, what I do when I'm traveling, what I do when I'm on the phone, what I do when I'm doing these live sessions, you'll notice that I talk about my wife and even stuff that she does as a herbalist quite often. Why do I do that? Because my mission encapsulates hers. In other words, I protect my wife's mission. So that means that I've had to advertise her mission. My son has a YouTube channel that's starting to grow slowly but surely. And guess what I do? He wants to be like dad, and he should. That's what we do in our culture, right? He's not supposed to try and go to schools like y'all go and all that stuff. He's supposed to learn how to do what dad does and do it better at some point, so that he can be better for his grandchildren. I just got to make sure that I take care of my children's children. So my son must be trained to make sure he takes care of his children. I'm training him on what fatherhood is from the day he's born, right? That's the mission. So everything that he does, I got to make sure it's doing something to make sure he's greater than me. That's part of my mission. That's part of my objectives. That's on my list. Law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. He has a right to be mighty. My son has a right to make sure he lives free. My son has a right to be able to speak to thousands, to millions, to maybe billions. My son has a right to make sure that his community is going to be greater than what the version of it that we have now. So that's my mission, is to protect him. My mission is to protect my wife. My mission is to protect SOC. My mission is to protect these live sessions. My mission is to protect people's hearts. My mission is to protect our sisters who have felt unprotected for the longest time, and they keep telling you that they really don't want to be known as a strong, independent in anything, but they have to be strong and independent because there's nobody that they can depend upon. They should be interdependent, but they feel like they have to be independent. Then they get tired of being independent. They want to be totally dependent, and then y'all get irritated, but they've never had somebody that they could be interdependent with. So now the mission has to do what? It's got to encapsulate them. Right? Now the mission has to be what? The mission has to be to make sure that there's there. See, and a lot of people don't have law, so you have no boundaries. A lot of y'all believe in stuff like unconditional love, but unconditional love means there's no conditions upon that which I can hold you accountable. I don't want unconditional love because I'm accountable. Yeah, words matters. Yep. That's why they call lonely peoples are alone. Always, because we don't fix the pattern. Yeah, and by the way, it's not great that man would be alone, right? What does that mean? That means that we should not be all in one, right? Alone means all in one. You're trying to do everything all in one. Nope, I will make for you a help me to help you to get to the mission, right? But that means your mission now has to make sure that you would leave everything, your mother and father, and cleave to your own wife. Which means that, sister, if he's going to stop being interdependent with mama so much, that means he got to be interdependent with you. So things that he got as a boy, he still got a little boy in him. So you got to give him the things that he was getting. Not saying you got to treat him like a child. He doesn't even want that. A real husband doesn't want to be treated as a child, but he definitely wants the little things in childhood, like dreams and visions and aspirations and things like that, that people would just love on him, and care for him and honor him and those things that he did. He definitely wants those things. We don't want any mama's boys, but we do want boys that, see, watch this. His mom was his physical mother, but was his spiritual wife. Now, when he gets married to you, you become his spiritual mother, who now become his physical wife, and vice versa, right? Little girls and you, right? When you should have had what your father should have given. Now, this is not always the case. Once again, this is why culture is important. We might have some bad habits. Why? Because a culture should have been put in place to where daddy was physical daddy but spiritual husband. You were looking for a spiritual husband that could go ahead and take it to the next level of what your physical father could do, so that when you finally walk down the aisle and have your hand taken from your daddy's hand and to your husband's hand, right? I know in our culture we don't walk down the aisle, but I'm just, mostly all are familiar with that because we're very Eurocentric in our thought. So when you walk down the aisle and daddy says, when I say, who gives this woman away to be married, and daddy says, I do, that's him saying, I'm getting the transfer, right? Transfer authority from my little girl to you. If she laid on my lap, or she sat on my lap, she gets to sit on yours. If she cried on my shoulder, she gets to cry on yours. If she was asking to go to the store to get little trinkets, then she gets to ask to go to the store to go to the mall. If she was asking to be loved and hugged and stuff, then she gets to be loved and hugged by you. But I can't go past a certain level, because that would be perverted, to be perverse, to be off the mark, to miss the mark, to sin. So to remove that leaven from her point in life to where she can go to the next level, I'm going to go ahead and release her into your care, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch and applaud, because I also have looked into your life. I'm not just going to give you to anybody random, but now that I know who you are, I've studied you, and I know a little something about you, and I've seen that you can respect her, and she knows what a wife is, and we trained her correctly, and all these things. Now I know that y'all will be set up for success. So hey, you go ahead. I'm her physical father, but been her spiritual husband, but I'm gonna back off so you can become her physical husband and her spiritual father, right? How you doing, Eugene? The D in the house. How you doing? How you doing, Insomnia? How you doing, Mactronics? You see what I'm saying? Like, and we don't have that in our culture. That's not something that's culturally important to us anymore. That's something that we don't even think. Thank you, Sis Betty. That's something we don't even think about anymore. I said this the other day, right? And sisters, once again, just hear me out, because I know we live in this place where everything somebody does is misandry, and you think that masculinity is toxic and all these things. But just hear me out, if you're new to this, right? Sisters that are on here, please back me up, because y'all know my heart if you've been on here long enough, right? Right. My wife's on too. She knows my heart. Y'all seen how my wife and I treat each other. We've talked about this stuff. We talk about this stuff constantly, consistently, right? But hear what I'm saying? Yeah, actually, they're pretty far away, but it still sounds like they right up on us using those aluminum bats. But nevertheless, right? Hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying, family. Hear what I'm saying, beloved. You ready? There's not a woman on this earth, and listen to every word I'm saying. Every word I'm saying. Don't get caught up in something and start arguing something that I'm not saying. How you doing, Stephen? Thanks for being on. Listen to every word that I'm saying, not just piece of it, not just the one that, listen to what I'm saying contextually, culturally. How you doing, blood? All right. There's not a woman on this earth that wants to have to work. I didn't say there's not a woman on this earth that can't work. I didn't say there's women should be buck naked and barefoot in the kitchen. Don't quote that. I never said that. Right. Oh, thank you for love. I never seen that one. Cool. Right. Hear what I'm saying? There's not a woman on the planet that wants to have to work. Now, for real, there's a lot of us that don't want to have to work, but men are actually love to have to work. I didn't say toil. I didn't say have a 9 to 5. I didn't say a job. Right? Hear what I'm saying? I said there's not a woman on this planet that wants to have to work. Right? Because that's not what she's created for. So some of your problems that you're having is not that a woman would go to work. right? Some of the problems that you're having when you're trying to find a wife and not just a woman, because a wife is on a higher level, right? Some of the problems you're seeing is that you have sisters that are out of place. They have to have a job. They have to work, right? That's what I'm saying. I didn't say you can't work. I didn't say you didn't even want to work. I didn't even say you don't like your job. Hear what I'm saying? I'm saying there's not a sister that wants to have to work. We talked about this a couple days before, whatever, right? Whenever it was. Now watch this though. Allow me to add a little bit on to that. You ready? Not only is there not a sister that's ever been created that wants to have to work, right? Is forcibly, right? Her family won't make it. She won't make it if she doesn't work, right? But watch this. Every wife, every woman, and every daughter ultimately is created to look for a father, physical or spiritual. If she doesn't want to have to work, that means she has to have a father, physical or spiritual, right? And people taking this all over the place, not like they're physical or spiritual. There's not a woman who has ever been created who wants to have to work. How you doing, Sister Mavis? Not she, right? That means that she needs, physically or spiritually, she needs a father. What is a father? A father is a source. Abba is a source. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. So if you are a man, but not qualified to be a husband, you are not in a position to spiritually be her father. Amen. Right? Because because she wants to be in submission. So she's willing to be in submission to somebody who has a mission. If you are not spiritually a father to her, then she cannot submit to any mission that you might have for her. See, that's a simple thing, but that's a mind-blowing thing. Is it not? That's simple, but it's awesome. It's awesomely terrifying when you have a situation where you have a brother who has no vision, who has no mission. I didn't say he doesn't have a great heart. Catch me, brother. Catch me, sister. I love his heart. His heart is awesome. Does he have a vision? Does he have a mission? Hitting the hammer on the nail. Amen. You said you disagree because God, well, I don't worship God, I worship Elohim, but what is it we're doing? So I disagree because Elohim told them to take dominion and he puts dreams and talents in women too. Sure. Yeah. What does that have to do with her not being in submission? I didn't say that there's not a woman that can't have a work. Once again, don't twist the words up. Hear what I'm saying specifically, right? Be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, right? All that. I'm with you, right? Those are the basics. That's Barashet, or what you call Genesis 1, right? I'm with you, right? But let's not also deny, or if we're going to be holy, let's be all of it. Let's bring all of it together now. All of it together now, right? If we're going to be holy, one, let's not just pick and choose what we want. And thank you for the love. And Brother Taryn, we got a little surprise for you at the end for the shout out, the suggestion that you made. You should be able to hear it today, right? But hear what I'm saying. I didn't say that a woman can't work. I didn't say that a woman doesn't have a vision, did I? I didn't even say that a woman doesn't have a mission. I'm saying that a woman will be, if we're talking about marriage, if we're going to talk about Ephesians 5. See, it's weird that we do that, right? Ephesians 5, watch this, because we don't even comprehend Ephesians 5. First of all, Ephesians 5:19, go back there. You can go back before then too, but let's just do it like this. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 19 says that everybody should make sure that they're aware of what they're listening to. If they're looking at psalms and hymns and all that, what are you listening to and hearing that's actually making you think the way you think? Are you listening to the truth or something else? Thanks for the love. Appreciate it. How you doing? The storm underscore, what is it, 36, I think. Right? So number one, What are you hearing that's making you think that what I'm saying is not what I'm saying? Number one. Number two, let's go a little further. Ephesians 5:21. Let's skip down just a tiny bit. Ephesians 5:21. It says, "Submit yourselves one to another," right? As right in the sight of Elohim. So husbands and wives should both submit themselves one to another. I know you thought that only women submitted to men, but I submit to my wife, and my wife submits to me. I can't fast from food. I can't do a sexual fast. I can't do any fasting unless my wife says it's okay. So when I say, hey, March 22nd to the 28th, that's going to be our next set of intermittent fasting, I need you to comprehend your stuff, right? I need you to realize, hear what I'm right, that she has to approve it, right? That's biblical. So we have to be submitted one to another as we're both submitted to Elohim. If I'm not submitted to my wife, I can't be submitted to him. My blessings come through not just submission to him, but submission to my wife. If I can't treat her with respect, then I can't respect him. So yes, my wife can do whatever. My wife used to make more money than me. If she wanted to, she could probably go right back into what she used to do because she does it very well. And people are still pining for her to come back. And she does stuff that was affecting people around the country as far as where y'all would live and how you would live. My wife could easily do that at any time. I have the greatest woman, as far as I'm concerned, right? The greatest woman to ever step foot on the face of this planet. However, she's willing to walk with me in this and grow her own business, right? And do her own teachings and help women in her way and men in her way and children in their way, because there's a mission that protects that vision for her. So she doesn't mind taking what y'all would call a back seat. In our culture, a wife is not in front of you, she's not behind you, she's not under you, she's not above you. She is going back to the place that she left, cleaving. She's going back to your side. That's Levi, by the way. Levi, Levitical priesthood, is to be married at the side of the Most High. That's why Levites are not supposed to work in the field. They're supposed to make sure that they are constantly and consistently attached to the Most High side. Even Elohim, the El of Elohim, y'all say it doesn't just, it's not only short for Elohim, but it also means to be attached to the side, right? See, people are going the wrong way with this because you're so busy fighting the Greco-Roman mentality. That's not my mentality. That's not my problem, right? I'm not opposed to matriarchs. I'm not opposed to queen. My people had queens on the throne. My people had people like Deborah, who was a judge, who we wouldn't even go to battle unless she was there. So we submit ourselves one to another as we do to Elohim, a threefold cord not easily broken. Now you get to Ephesians 5:22. Now you get to Ephesians 5:22. Now let's bring up Ephesians 5:22. See, you got the context now. So that's what I was saying earlier. Somebody was saying, what version of the Bible should I read? You got to have the culture down. Somebody was saying, why am I mediocre in how I do this? Even mediocre maybe in your relationships. You got to have the culture down. Now that that's my comprehension, and I've been raised with that in different 3-year cycles from birth. Some of y'all don't even know about those. Ages 0 to 3. Train that boy that he's just a boy. Ages 4 to 6, wean him from his mama to make sure he's not a mama's boy. Why? Ages 7 to 9, he's going to be his daddy's apprentice. Whatever daddy does, he's going to do. Ages 10 to 12, you're going to make sure you give him extreme education. About ages 13 to 15, you're going to make sure that you train him specifically on what an adult male is when he hits his bar mitzvah, or what you call bar mitzvah. From there, you then say, okay, go ahead, son. Go ahead, and we're going to train you what it is to be a husband, ages 16 to 18, right? Bar mitzvah, by the way, simply means a son who meets lawful requirements. But you have no law. You have no conditions, right? Or you have the wrong conditions. And then ages 19 to 21, we say, son, we're going to train you what it is to be a father. Once everybody agrees that you're ready for that, at age 21, at the end of age 21, we're going to say, hey, son, here's your inheritance. Go out there and do what we told you to do. Get your own land. And get this and do this and do this. And then when you find a wife, you must be in your work. So we've trained him to be in his work. He finds a wife while he's in his work. Adam was naming the animals. Adam was keeping the garden. Adam was walking with the Holy Spirit in the cool of the day. That's what that cool of the day means. The word cool there actually means the spirit. So then, as he's in his work, You see what I'm saying? We're having a bad conversation. You don't have the culture down. While he's in his work, he would find his wife and he would basically submit an application. He would basically submit his resume. He would say, this is what I can provide. I see what you're doing. I would like to see if you're part of this mission. If she eventually takes her time and says, yes, I'll be part of that mission, I think I would like to support that because I've been trained since childhood to be a wife as well. And I know what a husband's supposed to be. And I've looked at your resume. I think it's all right. I've talked to my father about it. I've talked to my sisters. I've talked to my brothers. I've talked to family members. I've talked to elder women because it says that the elder women, what is this? Is that Titus? Or I'm getting the wrong place. Is it Titus 2? I think I'm in the wrong place. But is it Titus 2 that says that the elder women, the elder wives should teach the young wives how to love their husbands? So she's learned all this stuff. She's seen her whole life. She's been geared up not only to support, not only do her, but to help with her community. So she says, okay, I'm cool with it. And then there's a knocking ceremony. Behold, I stand at the door and knock, right? There's a knocking ceremony that goes on. You don't know the culture, right? And the father comes with his son and knocks on the door. If the door be open unto him, then they come in and they talk about terms. See, there's cultures. You're reading these scriptures without even knowing the culture. They agree upon terms, and the one who's going to marry has to pay a dowry for his wife. You might know it as work 7 years, right? Jacob, and then he still didn't get her, still worked another 7 years because he loved her that much. He put a double payment on her because he's taking somebody away from their family so that they might become one with his. He's taking somebody out of the world so they might become one with his. There's a payment that's required. What was the payment? The dowry was the blood that was shed. So there's a payment that's made, right? And then once everything's agreed upon, she prepares herself for her husband, even though she hasn't had sex with that husband. That's why it says when Joseph, right, and Mary were together, and he found out that Mary was pregnant with child, it says that he was going to put her away privately. Why was he going to put her away privately? Because even though they had not had sex yet, so he knew it couldn't be his child, she had been adopted into the family already, and she was preparing herself, and he was supposed to prepare himself for her. And so when he found out, it said he was going to put her away. He was going to get a divorce, but y'all ain't had sex yet. In our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. How does that work? Well, because once the knocking ceremony is complete, you had a bunch of witnesses that would look at it, right? Affidavits, if you will, would have been placed. And therefore we would have said, okay, everybody knows they are each other's. Leave them alone because they're coming to become one. And she's going to prepare herself. And watch this, John 14. Beloved, that means David, by the way. That means divide. David means beloved. So beloved, Judah, let not your heart be troubled, right? Let not your heart be troubled. In my father's house there are many mansions. If it was not so, I would not have told you. I go to prepare a place for thee, that where I am, you also shall be. What is that talking about? That's saying that, beloved, David, I'm going to go away, right? Now that we have this written, I'm going to die for you. When I die for you, the dowry is paid. So go and keep preparing yourself for me as the wife, right? At the same time, I, as the husband, I'm going to go away to prepare a place for you. In my father's house, there are many mansions. A mansion is not a big house. A mansion is an add-on to the father's house. That is why Jerusalem, New Jerusalem, is being built. Heaven is where the Most High resides, but he's adding on to heaven for you. That's what a mansion is. Like, you got the wrong context, whether you believe it or not. That's why even if you want to know how worldly law works, you got to know biblical law because they're using the same principle. How you doing, Minister? How you doing, Sister Betty Russell? Right. So they're using the same principle, but you don't get it. So you just hear certain things, and you're like, "Oh, that sounds nice. It sounds poetic. Sounds like something they would use at a funeral. Cool." No, like, I'm going to prepare a place for this person who's separated from me. That I can build a mansion. And the way it works in our culture is nobody knows the day nor the hour except the father when the mansion is complete. I, as the father, when my son brings me a wife, I have to sit there. I say, "Okay, son. All right, cool. We got everything together. Let's build on. Build on what your family's already done. Go away from your land and come back home. I'm the prodigal father waiting for the son to return in a sense, right? Come back home. Okay, now that you're home, I'm prepared. I'm ready. But instead of putting the ring on your finger and the robe on and all that, this time you're going to have to get to work. And I know what it is to be a husband and a father. So I'm going to teach you how to build a place for y'all to stay at least the first couple of years of relationship so you can have somebody there to support you and teach you and coach you through what it is. So I need to make sure when you build that place, hey, look, I know that wives like to cook. And from what I've heard and what I've studied and when I met your wife, right, or your wife to be, when I met her, she told me she likes to cook. So you got to get a big stove. You got to have an island in the middle of that kitchen. Oh, don't stop there. You got to make sure she said that she want to have 5 babies. That y'all gonna have 5 children. You got to have 6 bedrooms, bare minimum. But you might want to have some guests. You might want to build an extra 2 on there, right? Like we're thinking generational wealth, even in the building of what's going on, right? So everything's there. The father's just watching though. He's just watching. Yep, do that. Yep, do that. Yep, do that. And then once the father says, okay, son, you're ready to go, then he says to his son, cool, finish it up. Now it's time to go get your bride. And then Matthew chapter 25, she should be prepared, have oil in her lamp. So when he comes back, she'll be ready without spot or blemish because she's been readying herself. So now when we get to Ephesians 5:22, that's why I say people just come on here and they be saying we're wrong. You don't know the culture. Now when we say Ephesians 5:22, wives, love your husbands. Is that what it says, by the way? Ephesians 5:22. Does it say, look, let's be strategic, let's be specific. We're talking about law, right? We got to have proper interpretation. Does your Bible say in Ephesians 5:22, wives, love your husbands? We gotta look at it now. I wish I could even go into the Hebrew context. We don't have time today. But does it say in Ephesians 5:22? Just help me out, y'all. How you doing, G? Just help me out. Does it say, wives, love your husbands? Is that what it says? Specifically, is that what it says? Specifically. Does it say, wives, love your husbands? Thanks for being part of the community, ladies Ozone. It says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husband. Do you not hear that? The same Paul who will make sure that he pins that, led by the Holy Spirit, is also the same Paul that says your body is not your own. Right? So whatever your husband is doing, you take ownership in it. And whatever you do, you take ownership in the fact that your husband has ownership in it too. You've been trained to do so since birth. And the word love there is in the Hebrew, right, which is what it was originally written in, right? The word love there is achabah. It means the actions of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit to make sure the Holy Spirit can reside inside of you. That's what it means. So wives, submit yourselves. I'm sorry, to your own husband. I said love. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. Sorry. Wives, submit yourself to your own husband. We talked about love um, in Titus 2, right? That the elder sister should teach the younger sister to love them. See, because you'll even hear people that say stuff. I got to fix this now. You'll hear people that even say stuff like, well, the Bible never says that husbands should love, that wives should love their husbands. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. But you only like a piece of it because you're trying to not have a wife that's in submission. You want a wife that's in submission. You want a wife that bows down to your flesh. Technically, you're not even supposed to bow down to the flesh of Yeshua. You're supposed to bow down to his spirit, to his throne, to the laws that he followed, line upon line, precept upon precept. But you want a woman that bows down, not a wife who submits to missions. But even if you want her to bow down, it'd be easier for her if you had a mission. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husband. Submission, not submission, submission. If you are a husband, She will take ownership of your mission if you have one. And if you're her husband. Now watch this. This is what a lot of y'all do too. You so busy listening to Andrew Tate, which I'm not here to talk about if he's guilty or not, but you busy listening to Andrew Tate and whatever red pill, blue pill cats out there. And I love Abba and Preach, but you want to listen to Abba, who's not even trying to have a wife, right? And Preach, who's out there talking about that, like, hey, you should have little girls out there taking classes so that they can go ahead and spin around poles and all that, where they're little, so they can take stripper pole lessons so they can have strong core strength and all that stuff. Like, you listen to all these cats out here who are messing you up, but you won't listen to the word of Yah. Yeah, your wife should not be your slave. And that's what y'all want. See, submission. If you have no mission, why should she be part of what you're doing? And do you even know what the mission of a wife is supposed to be culturally? Everybody's culture has a different mission for their wife. If you're into romantic stuff, Roman antics, if you're into romanticism, that's a system in which the wife don't matter because she's just supposed to be somebody. This is what gender is. Gender means like genre, right? This is what gender means. Gender means like genre, right? So submission for somebody else is different. In their genre, right, the gender of how Greeks and Romans treated their wives is they were side pieces to little boys that were running after. So if you're trying to be romantic, you're dealing with that little boy spirit. You're dealing with stuff like Plato. Plato said that the worst marriage, the worst relationship was between an adult male and an adult female to be married. He said that's the worst relationship you could ever see. He said the best relationship was between an older man in his like a man in his early 40s and a young boy that was like a preteen. That's a platonic relationship. That's what that comes from. So why would I want a platonic relationship? It's cultural. That's why you trying your best to have a girl that's like a girl, you know, she your girl, but she's not really your wife. Why can't you? And your wife is sitting there like, no, I don't play that. That's why you trying to have that friend. You know, we just been a friend, and your husband don't understand. And you like, he just don't understand. He's just jealous. Well, you love a jealous Elohim. You said that the Most High is jealous, and you love it. He's so jealous over me. Thank you for the love, by the way. He's so jealous over me. I love it that Elohim is he's such a jealous Elohim. But he's supposed to be, but your husband's supposed to act like him. So your husband is like, no, why you got this dude that be coming around like that? You're into Freudian stuff. You know, Freud, the reason why y'all even use the word anal retentive or anal, somebody being anal, is because Sigmund Freud taught that a little child, when they were born, wanted to have sex with their own father. That's what he taught. That's not what we teach. That's what he taught. And so therefore he said, oh, well, since they don't want to do that, maybe they want to have sex with their own mother, but their mother can't really have anal sex with them like that. So since they can't, they just basically end up sticking around their mother, and they end up being a pain. And so when they're going through the terrible twos, that's them being anal. And that's why when people like act a certain way and they start acting like little children around you, you call them anal, because you think that it's supposed, like, you don't even realize the word you're speaking. It's a different culture. It's a different gender. It's a different genre. That's their style for male and female. You see, just in knowing that, we've already just discussed, and I'm not saying all LGBTQ plus are trying to do this, but I'm just trying to tell you there's a culture anything comes from. If you consider yourself to be straight or cisgender or binary, whatever you want to call it, there's a culture that comes from. Just because somebody wants to rename it doesn't mean that they're not misappropriating my culture. And if I know where it comes from and my tribe lives by it still to this day, then why don't we get to be the people that say this is what it is? You said, what about having multiple wives? Every time somebody tried to have multiple wives, especially in the Bible, did the Most High tell them to have multiple wives? And did it ever work out in a way in which the wives were honored and the husbands had an easy life? Of course not. It's not Yah's will. You said, well, Abraham had a son first with somebody that wasn't even his wife. Did the Most High tell him to do that? Matter of fact, he ended up having problems. Matter of fact, his son ends up getting sent away from him because the Most High said, listen to your wife. And he says, you shouldn't have listened to your wife in the first place when she told you to have sex with somebody else. That's on you. He said that wasn't the promise. What? Oh, well, what about Israel? 12 tribes and this and that. Yeah, we deal with a lot of problems, don't we? And didn't they? Leah had 4 children. and her children's names. And literally, the first 4 children, she had 6 total out of her womb, 8 total that she was responsible for. There were 4 wives involved. Rachel was there. Leah, Rachel, and their father tricked Jacob into something he didn't even want to do, which is why Leah, her first 4 children are named Reuben. I'll use what we know him as: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, right? Reuben literally means he'll see me. Why? Because her husband wasn't even really trying to see her like that, right? Simeon literally means he'll hear me. Why? Because her husband wasn't hearing her. Levi literally means he'll be by my side. Why? Because her husband wouldn't even spend time with her and be by her side. So finally, with the 4th child, she names him Judah. Judah means I'll praise you and I'll stop worrying about what my husband wants. I got myself in this situation, but at least I have children. At least I'm in a position where I'm the first wife. Hey, you know what? I'll praise you. And then it says he shut up her womb after that for a little bit because he needed her to see, stop worrying about what somebody's putting in you, your husband's putting in you, when I already have in you greatness. If he's not going to make sure that he's willing to submit unto you, you got to take some accountability for that. But also, too, guess what? Your life is greater than just what one person thinks about you. Keep on going, right? You have the prophet who's born by her parents. The parent, one mother is having children, another mother is not able to have any children. She's praying and praying, and she's looking like she's crazy because she's fervently praying. The person thought she was drunk. The prophet thinks that she's drunk. He comes to her and says, "Man, you know what? Like, you need to leave somewhere. You're gonna be in here drunk. How you gonna be in here praying and you're drunk?" She said, "No, I'm not drunk. I'm praying because I want a child." And her, right, and then she gets the child. Right now, the husband, while all that's going on, the husband and her are having beef because she's like, "You don't love me and you don't appreciate it." And he's like, "Look, I love you. I have sex with you and everything, but look, I can't control the fact that this wife has children and you don't." That wasn't happy. That wasn't cool. There's nowhere that you'll see that it was commanded that you're supposed to have multiple wives. People just started having them. Just because something's written in the Bible doesn't mean that it's right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like there's people that murder people in the Bible. We don't say go murder. There's a law against it. You know? Hey, how you doing, Sister Irina? You said, why does everyone try to meddle in our culture? Just leave us alone. Yeah, and that's the part is, once again, people aren't looking at the stuff and then they want to tell you what's right and wrong within your culture. So there's nowhere in the Bible that you'll ever see that it worked out that somebody had multiple wives. Nowhere. You'll see that people had it and they tell you the truth. Hey, if you want to see what happened with this, the Bible is law and case studies. So here's some case studies for you. This was what's going on here. This is what was going on here, and these case studies. And so if you want to see what's going on, this is what was happening. But it ain't work out so well. So you got all these brothers out here now trying to say, I'm gonna go ahead and follow, Israel's what he tried to do or whatever, fine, and then try to have one wife. That's what Israel was trying to have. Jacob, he was trying to have one wife. See, that's why you got to know your culture, because people try to talk to you. You got to remember who they think they're talking to. You got to know your culture. Who they think they're talking to. You got to know your culture. What you mean? What you mean? You trying to play me for a fool? Jacob wasn't trying to have multiple wives. He wanted one. Now, could Jacob have still said no to the other things when they started fighting against each other? The other one, of course, right? But that still made it even worse. And his sons had sex because of it. Not sex, but sects. They had sex because of it. And because of that, they even threw the 11th son, the 12th child, the 11th son, they threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery, and felt bad about it. You see what I'm saying? There's stuff that comes out of it. So you just want to go ahead and have as much sex with as many people as possible because you know what? You don't want accountability. You sound like the guy that been out here talking about, I got 7 babies by 7 baby mamas. And I'm mad at them because they didn't get an abortion and you ain't going to force me to raise them. You sound like him. You sound like Brother Polite. Anybody heard from Brother Polite, by the way, ever since all the stuff happened where he was messing around with them little girls and stuff? Because your appetite, once you open up that sexual appetite, you're going to start doing some wild stuff, brother. Not saying Brother Polite didn't have nothing great to say. I'm just hear what I'm saying. He was out here telling y'all have as many wives as y'all want. You know, because we as Africans, as if all African people do the same thing, but we as African, you know, we used to have multiple wives. And here's something that I don't get. Couple things. We gotta get ready to take our lead because we gotta. I'm sorry, Victoria, I missed what the question was. I apologize, but we're getting close to us taking our lead. But but here's just a thought. Number one, just two quick things before we take our leave and do our shout out. Quick question. Why do you want somebody to tell you why it's okay to have multiple wives and you don't know how to deal with one yet? Like, how irresponsible. Let's just say that I'm 100% wrong. I'm not, right? The Most High is not. But let's just say that I'm wrong about how I'm interpreting the law when it comes to you having multiple wives. Wouldn't it be irresponsible of me if I haven't taught you how to deal with one wife? How to let you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all these things y'all want? Would it not be irresponsible of me? And thank you for the love, appreciate it. It would be totally irresponsible of me. You can't treat yourself right. Then you want me to say your wife should submit to you when you don't even know how to treat yourself. You have zero mission, you have zero ambition. You want to have a lot of y'all want multiple wives so they'll take care of you. But even the tribes that y'all talking about, you know that if you're gonna have multiple wives, you have to make sure that you can provide for multiple wives. They don't have to work. Remember, even in this is not see once again, we have to do this. We do this weird thing. We got to correct. The Bible in and of itself is Afrocentric. Stop acting like the Bible is separate from Africa. Thank you for the love, right? The Bible in and of itself is Afrocentric. Come on, somebody. That means that if we're going to talk about this, we got to talk about it from an African perspective. Even for those tribes out there that want you to have multiple wives, they have to be able to provide for multiple wives. That means also something that some of y'all ain't even healthy enough to do. Because you don't even eat right. Some of y'all can't make sure that one woman is satisfied in the bedchamber. So how in the world am I going to say, hey, 8 of y'all try and get what y'all need from this person who doesn't even take time to know what one of y'all wants, doesn't even make sure that he can keep it? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there, right? I'm going to be honest with you though. Because that's what y'all talking about. You talking about you just want to get your stuff off, but are you ready to go all night with one and go all night with the next one? And are you ready to make sure that all their bills are paid? And are you ready to make sure that every single one of them is getting the love of a father that they're supposed to have? And are you ready to make sure that all of their children shall be provided for? By the way, that's all your children. And are you in a position to make sure that they are taught correctly? Are you in a position to make sure that they're protected? Are you make sure? No, you can't even do that with yourself, bro. Why would I try to say, hey, let's have one wife with you when you can't even take care of yourself, let alone multiple women? Why would I have them do that? Right? I'm just saying, you want it, but you ain't ready for that. You can't handle that. You can't handle one. A lot of reasons why you're mad at the relationships you get in because you can't handle one. You can't listen to one. And thank you for the love. Sorry, brother. You can't even listen to one. How in the world you gonna listen to 7? You don't know how love language works with one. You don't know her love language is words of affirmation, and she also likes gifts. I need to make sure that I'm very careful in the words that I speak, and I make sure that even if I find a petal that is upon the ground, it could be something that could go ahead and show and tell her, give her a poem in words to be able to present it to her and open my hand that will let her know that I love you, baby. But no, you don't even know that for a woman, if you would give her security and affection, she would want to have sex. Your number one need is sex, but you don't give her security and affection, so she'll give you your number one need because she wants to be in submission. She knows that you want sex, dummy. But she also knows that it's hard for her to even get, I'll say it like this, to get things flowing down there, right? If you're not even giving her security and affection. Her feeling like it's time to get it on is going to be because she feels secure, and then you gave her affection and you spoke in her love language and her children is straight, and you give her time to be able to go places, and she gets some alone time too, and she gets to go out with the girls, and then you do stuff just by yourself with her, there ain't no way. See, but you're too romantic in your thought process. You deal with Roman antics. You don't have the culture down. You don't know how to love a wife. You don't know how to love yourself. And exactly, it's a selfish thing. So number one, if you want multiple wives but can't take care of one, why would I do that to a woman? Number one. But number two, if just in case I might be wrong about how I interpret things, and the Most High has spoke marriage into existence, right? You know, and is supposed to be married to you. But even if I'm wrong about that, like I was saying earlier, right? Even if I'm wrong about that, here's the other question for you. What are you going to be fed by with all these wives? What are they going to feed you? Let's reverse it, because that's what you want. What are they feeding you? And what are they going to feel? As a matter of fact, let me say it like this, because you're not going to hear, brothers ain't going to hear me if I say they're going to manipulate what I'm saying. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for the correction. We're going to say this, and then we really got to take our leave. We got to get ready for Shabbat Shalom service. Let's say it like this. Why does the wife not matter to you as much as the husband? That's the question. Let me say it like that. What I mean by that is, if you believe there should be multiple wives, then shouldn't she be able to have multiple husbands? There are tribes where they do that. So if you're gonna do that, why can't she have multiple husbands? Now, the reason I'm saying that is some of y'all can't handle the fact because you're not mature enough, right? Some of y'all aren't mature enough to handle this, because I already know I'm a man, so I'm barely mature enough to handle it myself. Real talk, right? But I've learned to grow to be mature enough to realize that, guess what? Before you existed in her life, your wife or your girl or whatever, there's a possibility she might have had sex with somebody before you. There's a possibility she might have done some freaky thing with somebody else before you. There's a possibility that the reason why she a freak the way she is with you is because she learned it with somebody else. There's a possibility. There's a possibility she watched pornography and stuff and was enamored with certain parts of people, like their genitalia size and other things like that, and muscles and things like that. But she chose to become your wife. And just me mentioning that for some of you grosses you out because you're too immature to handle it. Like, some of you are so grossed out that it's possible that she could have loved somebody else in that manner before she loved you. Right? It grosses you out. You can't handle her just having an ex in your mind. You can't handle the fact you can't even talk. Some of y'all can't have conversations about what your wife likes, because you sitting there, and as she starts telling you stuff that she might like in the bedroom, you're like, ooh, did somebody do that to her? Ooh, well, was he bigger than me? Ooh, well, see, y'all want to go there, but see, you talk about this stuff that she should have multiple. Now, watch this stuff. So she should have multiple wives and not think about any of that. But you can't even deal with that with one. Oh yeah, well, you should definitely. People should be taking marital coaching, especially if you've never been taught this stuff. You should be taking it when you're single, of course. Reach out. Right? And don't worry about none of that. We do everything via donation. If the donation is you can't give anything right now, I'm more concerned about marriages being strong than I'm about that. But I'm here to tell you, some of y'all just thinking about the fact that your woman, or the woman that you like, or the girl you got a crush on, or your wife, or whomever, just thinking about that, it messes with you. But once again, you don't realize what submission is. She's not into submansion, she's into submission. She's not even concerned about all that stuff. If your mission is on point, you ain't got to be 12. You can be 6. You can be 8. You can be 4. Matter of fact, some women tell you they ain't looking for 12 anyways. I'm not going to talk too much about it. We ain't got time. I know there's babies that could be listening. I'm just trying to tell you some stuff. We don't talk about this stuff enough in our community. We don't hear people preaching on this stuff. You need to hear somebody tell you, bro, that there's a brother out there that's got the perfect body. He 225, 6'7", 85 abs, all that stuff. He got dimples in the right places and all that. but he beats women. And she'd rather be with you, right? 5'10", little bit of fat in the belly, right? But love her, right? And love her to life. And no hitting comes, and you take care of the children, and she builds with you. I've said this before, I say it again, and we got people that make money on here, right? So I'm not just saying something that I don't know no better than, right? I talk to people of all different walks of life and be able to come around. I'm trying to tell you, let me say this, and I'll say it again. This is our last thing for real, because we really got to take our leave. Let me say this, and then we done for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Prayerfully, we'll see everybody at 11 a.m. And prayerfully, we'll see a lot of y'all for the podcast at 10 a.m., right? And that's Eastern New York time. But let me just say this before we go ahead and say our announcements real quick and roll out. If a wife gets with a husband who's already rich, watch this. If a wife gets with a husband who already has $100 million and he makes $1 million, I'm telling you from what I've heard from wives who are in this position. If a wife gets with a husband who makes $100 million a year already, when he makes $1 million, it don't mean that much. She's proud, she's thankful, she's excited, she's secure, all those things, but it doesn't mean as much. Hear what I'm saying? Sisters, if I'm wrong, you tell me that I'm wrong, right? But I'm telling you from sisters that are in that position who I talk to on a regular basis, okay? You got a brother that makes $100 million and he make $1 million. Hey, that's nice, that's awesome, but I'm accustomed to that. And when I met him, he was already there, right? But I promise you, that brother that came out the mud, hear what I'm saying? That brother that came out the mud, who had a vision, and she sees him when he makes his first $1 million. When he gets that first $1 million check, and she was there to support the mission, and when they get it together out the mud, and he loves her because there's no way he could have gotten there without her. Right? I promise you, that means a whole lot more. You said, then he turns into Kanye? Yeah, but Kanye was never a husband. People fell in love with Kanye, but Kanye was never a husband. He was never trying to be a husband. Kanye knew how to manipulate. And Kanye got wives that he never, like Kanye messed with whatever he needed. Kanye was always an open relationship. So Kanye's not even in the conversation for this, right? That's why I said you got to find a husband, right? Kanye was speaking about himself. And when he get on, he leave you for a white girl, right? You stay right, girl, right? And when you get on, you leave your, that's what he was trying to do. But see, and even if however you feel about LeBron, right? There's something to be said for the fact that LeBron, his wife, his children, my sister, not only LeBron's wife and children, his mama, not only his mama, his teammates from high school. And you know why all that, right? All of them have businesses that he started. Matter of fact, the guy who runs, the guy who runs, I forget what it is, Clutch Sports, right? Who's the agent? He met him when he was a teenager in an airport. They had conversation. He said, and the guy was selling T-shirts, right? And he said, I like what you're doing. I can see this moving on. I like your business mode. So as he grew, he took these people with him. He had them study at the feet of Warren Buffett and all these people out there. Oh, yes, he did. Because he said, we all got to come up in this. He was vision oriented. He was mission oriented. So all of them came up together. So when you see LeBron's crew, y'all just thinking like, oh, it's like all these people where all these people showed up and now they his crew. No. LeBron's crew has been there 20 years, 30 years. He already knew he was going to be in the NBA at 12. There were NBA teams giving his family money when he was 12 years old, still in Akron. Right? His mama was driving around in a Hummer, right, before he even got to the league. They were putting his high school games on television when he was like 16, 17. So if he knew that was the vision at 12, guess what? When he got a girlfriend in high school, guess what he knew? He knew, I can't just get with anybody. She might be getting with me for the money, this and that. I got to check these things out for myself now. I got to be in position now. He didn't have a father in his life. He said, man, I'm going to become one of the greatest to ever do it. So guess what? I got to be one of the greatest fathers to ever do it. Now, regardless of what you feel about it, I'm just trying to tell you what his mindset was. So Kanye don't belong in this discussion, because Kanye was never of the mindset that he needed to make sure that he was a husband to a wife, and he still isn't. Kanye was never in the mindset that he needed to be a husband to his wife. But LeBron said, I have to be, because I've got to break the curse and I've got to be the greatest. See, y'all think of Michael being the greatest because of what he did on the court, but Michael's marriage, Michael's children, heck, Michael's children that's messing with Michael's former teammate, and now that person is messing with Michael's former teammate's wife. Michael being invested in prisons. And even if you want to say his name's not actually the same Michael, if Michael is attached to Nike, they make their stuff out of American and Chinese prisons and many other places, right? If you want to talk about greatness of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said, hey, I will sit behind Muhammad Ali with Bill Russell, with Jim Brown, and we'll come together and let everybody know that if we have to take an anti-America stance, we'll do it too. See, but y'all, culturally, you don't look for that. You're not looking for husbands. You're not looking for people that will die for the cause. If he won't die for the mission and you want to be in submission to him, that means he won't die for you. You see that? Why you put your face in there? You should block your face or do this or blah, blah, this and that or whatever. Look, I know in telling truth, especially as we continue to grow, we start getting closer to things. We actually get the land. People are changing. We're separating. We're using our own kind of currency, things like that. Like, I know I'm teaching principles that people in the past have not been here as long. Now, I believe the Most High is going to let me live to be 150. At least that's what I've been praying for and asking for every day, right? My wife will be able to live to be able to be 152. And really, even older than that, she got to outlive her husband. And we're going to be healthy. We're going to be healthy every day. I'm here for all those things. But I'm just telling you, I comprehend that in order to do this, you got to be willing to die to self, die for a cause. So, anyways, we got to get ready to take our leave. We're going to let Minister Morel get ready to come on here. We'll do a short version of our we'll do a short version of our shout out on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, just please stick around a little bit. We'll explain how that works. And a reminder, I'll just only give one announcement for right now. Two. We have our podcast coming up right after. I'll make sure that that's up on the screen for you guys to see very shortly. Also, we have our SOC meeting for everybody. Now, once again, I tried my best to send DMs to everybody. If we didn't have your numbers and stuff like that, I tried my best to add everybody to the email and that. So please check your email, for your Google Calendar invite, that notification. But if for some reason you don't have the link, please try to reach out to us. If you're on YouTube, look in the description how to get in contact. If you're on Facebook, do the same. If you're on TikTok, look on our main TikTok page and click on the link tree, or just watch what's about to happen on your screen and you'll be able to get in contact with us real soon. Okay. But at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're going to have the podcast. That's New York time. At 11 a.m. Eastern or New York time, we're going to meet for an SOC meeting with everybody. I don't even 100% know how it's going to work yet, but we'd love to have all y'all on. It's going to be exciting. We've been having a lot of people coming on for the region. So now let's all come together from all over the place. If you're able to, let's see your faces. If not, let's hear your voices. If not, let's at least see you say something in the chat and we can start working things out together as a group and as a unit so we can be connected. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. I got to take my leave. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Like I was saying, please just get in contact with us. Text us at the number, the 202 number that's in the description on YouTube, the 202 number that's in the description on Facebook. Text us at that number. If you're here and we're about to do our shout out at the end, just stay on long enough and you can go ahead to be able to get that information, and you can text us as well. We'll try to make sure we get everybody the link before we get started. All right. But let's go ahead and get out of here so we can get ready to hear an awesome word from Minister Morel. We appreciate y'all. We thank you so much, and we honor the King and Queen, each and every one of you. Please take time out of your day to study this word and meditate on it so you can be hearers and doers, and make sure that you give all the honor and glory and praise to Yahweh. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. I want you to please remember, as always, Yahweh, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, You're fearfully and wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat shalom, family. Take care. And we'll go ahead and get ready to do our shout out here on TikTok. Those of you who are